Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've done a video that was just focused on Ripple XRP. I've done some other ones in regards to, XRP and AXL and Swift and so on, but not just XRP. In this particular update, I have gone down the rabbit hole of trying to find some more information in regards to actual adoption leading towards mass adoption. These are the topics that's on the minds of all of us, whether you're a long-time holder of Ripple XRP or you're the type of person that's thinking about getting into it. It's the people that are involved when it comes to them being the instruments moving forward and connecting some things to get the job done for just that mass adoption. Smash the like if you haven't done so already. Consider staying to the end of the outline. I do have some chapters for you guys that just want the key areas. They are in the description. But hear this out, because a lot of times we focus on a lot of different news, but we don't realize that there's some people in the background, whether connected to Revolut or how about this, the Central Bank of Lithuania, that is going to be the instruments to bring it all together because they're going to recommend the tech. And while we've had other examples in the past, is understanding specific ones. So I've taken the liberty of investigating into this a little bit more. I didn't see a lot of people talk about this, so I wanted to bring you guys some original content. Again, let's get into it. And if anything, start off from Swift. 2 months ago, they came out with this particular video. And it's not time sensitive, but it really pounds home everything you're going to see in this particular outline. For one, let's start off from here, and it's called LinkedIn Live, ISO 222, and navigating the future of ISO 222 for payment systems. I've gone ahead and fast forward to this key area from Mel Gauchi. She is the program manager over at Australian Payments Network. I'm using this as an example to give you an idea that it's not obviously just some of the ones that we always hear about, but again, hear it from some of these key players. We'll go ahead and play this. We'll come right back and show you some other citations on why this is important. Here we go.
Now, Mel, over to you. Could you introduce yourself and perhaps explain for those who don't know a little bit about the role of the High Value Payment System Plus Working Group?
No problem. Thanks, Tom. And thank you guys for today. So I am the program manager leading the Australian migration of the high value system to ISO 20022. I'm also the change management lead for HVPS Plus. And HVPS Plus provides a usage guideline template for MIs to implement ISO 20022 within their own high value payment systems. So we're really looking to support MIs on this. It's industry led, we're supported by Swift, and we have members covering 16 MIs, including some of the world's major markets. We have a strong interplay with CBPR Plus, that where CBPR Plus provides an implementation of ISO 20022, just like our MIs, HVPS Plus is a template. So it's kind of a layer above that. And our MIs will use that template. The whole purpose of this is to enable harmonization and interoperability across the board. So we want to make sure that MIs have a similar starting point or a baseline that they can all use and then plug in their local requirements.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, a lot to dive into there, particularly both on the Australian side, but also looking at how we're looking forward to that harmonization challenge, which HVPS Plus is trying to manage. But I want to come back to that, but actually start off really from the basics and to start off what the ISO 20022 journey means for us. And Christy, I think you're really well placed to start that conversation, which is, can you just tell us a bit about why are we having this conversation? Why and how are you choosing to implement ISO 20022?
So I'll start with the why. And the why is because there are so many benefits that are related to implementing ISO 20022. I think one of the benefits is the standardization and interoperability. We're implementing ISO 20022 to take advantage of the standardized messaging formats. This format enhances interoperability between different financial institutions and systems globally. Number two, we are also looking at the data richness that is there, and this is on the structured data compared to the old standards. So the empty standards did not have structured data, but for the ISO 222, we have structured data that is really rich with a lot of information. It has detailed information that can be transmitted to for each transaction. This helps improve at least accuracy and efficiency of payment reporting. The other thing also, the other benefit is just on the regulatory compliance, and that is why we are also implementing the ISO 222. So we want to, the ISO 222 are global message. So we want to ensure that we comply to the evolving regulatory requirements and align ourselves as an industry to the industry-wide mandates of standardized messaging formats and ensure that we remain compliant globally.
Okay, so to remain compliant globally. Now, recently speaking, we saw a while back from CoinDesk and other sources in regards to Ripple's position in the bigger picture. Let's take you over to just a quick little snippet of what I'm talking about. Because you heard, for example, Australia. The other lady that was part of the interview actually was this particular lady who was talking about some of these things. But, you know, it's understanding that you have, for example, all these key players, right? And where I'm going with this is it was Christine Arena. She was the head of Swift operations from the Central Bank of Kenya. All right. So when you see this about a little bit more of like, you know, African countries and so on, it's Ripple broadening the rate remittances between Africa, the Gulf states, and of course in the United Kingdom and Australia. In its annual conference, Ripple announced a while back that they have product enhancements and license updates, including a focus on payments between enterprises and, of course, smaller businesses. Some people, for whatever reason, state that there is no ISO 222 connection to Ripple. And to be honest, I mean, you know, we could agree to disagree, but my thing is, I don't agree with that. And I just go to the source. I go to ISO222.org, and you do see on the registration management group member list that there's 43 delegations from RMG from the following member entities. I'm going to scroll down to that particular part for you can see it for yourself. But plain as day, when you look into this, you know, you'll see, for example, this RMG member list, and plain as day, it mentions RippleNet, and of course, like it says, Ripple. Jump in a little bit more down into it. I'm going to take you into the next part of our outline because I want to introduce this particular gentleman who is Marius Jurgilas. Just a couple months ago, this, in my opinion, flew on the radar, but it's Axiology. And I think there might have been a couple people talking about it, but I didn't see him really get into the weeds about this. I'm telling you flat out, I'm not just trying to provide unique content for a reason, but I want you guys to understand there's a difference between adoption and mass adoption, but it's the people that are involved and what they can recommend, right? Sometimes it's not, you know, what you know, it's who you know. So this in itself is big, in my opinion, for Ripple, but this statement about Axiology developing regulated financial market infrastructure on the XRP ledger and how they're going to expose how crypto market developments can be transposed into highly regulated financial market infrastructure. Again, the infrastructure. So we saw examples ISO 222, but the point is to see first use case that being enabled. You know, we talk about the first mover advantages. Listen to this. Talked about the instruments earlier, right? So this in itself will make it the safest financial instrument for government bonds accessible to all, and their ultimate objective is to utilize XRPL AMA functionality and build fully integrated capital market infrastructure with settlement, by the way, custody and exchange and brokerage as one of the regulated financial infrastructures of the whole mix. You got to hear it for yourself of how well connected this guy is. More importantly, his connection to things like Revolut and why that's a big deal for Ripple moving forward, especially when it comes to XRP. I'm going to play a good portion of this, not the whole thing, but you got to hear this. Again, something that kind of really flew under the radar. Here we go.
My name is Marius, and I'm an ex-central banker, regulator, payments infrastructure expert, turned into tokenized assets startupper. And Axiology is developing regulated capital markets infrastructure built on, obviously, XRP ledger. So what is the problem that we are trying to tackle? We can rely on something that has been said on the previous panel. We would like to make capital markets simple, and, well, they are not. The majority of people actually are not trading in the majority of assets that the big boys in the capital market are trading. The average transaction in the bond market is 2 million euros in European Union. Raise your hand if that's the average transaction you do. You don't, right? So that is the problem. But we're not trying to replace the gravity laws of the financial market. We embrace them and we try to change them from within. So if you want to change the system, you need to be part of the system, and that's our mission. How we do that? Well, we have a window of opportunity. And that window of opportunity is a specific legal regime in European Union passed by European Parliament that says, hey guys, let's try to do it differently. And that different regime is a DLT, which stands for Distributed Ledger Technology, pilot regime, which allows us to do something which usually cannot be done. And it's done by the experts from a regulatory, infrastructure, payments, capital market background. In a nutshell, what is our business model and what we do? Because I assume that not everyone here is coming from the CSD, regulated markets business, right? So if you issue a security, it needs to be recorded somewhere. And in the current financial market, that entity is called a CSD, Central Securities Depository. Axiology is providing that function. If you're trading in securities, the trade is not final until it's settled. And the settlement, usually done in central bank or commercial bank money, is provided by securities settlement system. Axiology is providing that. And to be able to trade in those securities, you need a place. And that place is either regulated market or an MTF, multilateral trading facility, some kind of an organized marketplace. Regulated. Axiology is that. And to be able to interact with an exchange, raise your hand if you can just jump right now and put your order into Nasdaq Stock Exchange or New York Stock Exchange. You can't. You need a broker-dealer, an intermediary that will investigate that. Are you fit for that transaction? Can you actually do it? Do you really understand what you're doing, right? This is regulation. And Axiology is doing that. And all of that is being done on a single data structure in one regulatory environment. This is the innovation, and this is the regulatory innovation that we have in the European Union. Well, to give you a bit more specifics on what exactly this regulation is enabling us to do, is creating new types of regulatory entities which do not exist until this very moment. They are introducing new types of entities called DLT MTF, DLT SS, and DLT TSS. You don't have to know those acronyms. The point being that Axiology is developing this full stack where we are your broker, we are the exchange, this is the place where the price discovery is happening, this is where the settlement is happening, and where the custody of the digital tokenized securities is happening. This regime is a temporary regime. European Union says, we're going to give you 6 years. Prove to us that blockchain can actually change things. Well, we're not going to allow you to do just anything, derivatives, right? No, a certain set of assets, equities, fixed income instruments, and UCITS fund units. For those who are not from European Union, specific fund units accessible to retail investors. And very important element, this regime allows trading in regulated financial securities through such infrastructures directly without an intermediary. So if right now, if you want to buy Apple stock, as I said, you need to find a broker-dealer who puts your order into some exchange. If you tokenize Apple stock and put it on such an infrastructure, You don't need a broker-dealer. Actually, two individuals can have a buy and sell order either through an XRP order book or potentially automated market making facility. And let me stress here, we are talking here about regulated securities and regulated market. Is this the only place around the world that this innovation is taking place? No. Switzerland has done that. Swiss central bank is already providing the settlement in central bank money for tokenized sovereign asset. The Swiss government has issued tokenized government bond, and which is settling on a CSD, SIX CSD in Switzerland. Interestingly, UK is going through some regulatory discussion right now, and the digital security sandbox is something that should be going live this summer or at the end of the summer. And everyone is trying to see all of those keywords: atomic settlement, elimination of multiple risks that are inherent in the current architecture of financial markets. Can it actually be done? And this is a live regime where it's not a kind of a pilot, and we are trying to implement it. In a nutshell, for those who are a little bit more deep-minded into this subject, Axiology will be an issuer of an asset. So if you are an SME company somewhere in Europe, you go to the bank, you want to take a 2 million loan, and they show you the middle finger because you don't have a collateral, the usual problem of an SME. Can you issue an unsecured instrument, corporate bond? Well, theoretically, yes. Practically, no, because the issuance costs are exorbitant. That's too low of a scale. Can it be done in an efficient way somewhere in Europe? Yes. Axiology is the place where you can issue corporate bonds. Axiology actually could be the place for sovereigns to provide new types of instruments where you approach your constituents and say, look, I'm not increasing taxes to collect money for the budgetary expenses. I'm not just asking you to buy into the government bonds for the general purpose of the budgetary expense. What about you? Do you care about nature or some other important issue? We're going to issue a purpose-bound government bond, and you can allocate your funds into that particular instrument. What is the main problem? The problem is that sometimes we don't trust the government, because the government is this amorphous element where, one government issued the bond and the others are spending, right? So how can I make sure that if the government said that the proceeds of the bond will be used for in my case, for the defense of the country, that these funds will not be used for some other good causes like roads or education, very noble cause, but I care about national defense. Can you give me an instrument where I can allocate my money for this purpose? If you do, this is the structure that we can use. And to distribute those instruments to facilitate the causes that we do care about. So this is what we are building, and this is the architecture. It's a consortium architecture built on XRPL, where we have nodes distributed across the broker-dealers. The settlement asset is within the regime of markets and crypto asset regulation in Europe. So the settlement asset is a stable coin, but a regulated stable coin. And the regulator takes the data from the infrastructure directly, and if there is a possibility, technical possibility that supervisor is up to the standard, we can run a node for the regulator.
Okay, so shortly after that, he finishes up and then it's a Q&A. So basically it's like this. I want to give you guys a little bit more notes on why this is so significant moving forward. If anything, I want you guys to understand that, man, there's a lot to take in, but it's understanding like, where do we really go from here? And I even have like an update that came out 15 hours ago from Crypto Erie. Shout out to her. But from what I gathered in my own notes is this. When we talk about this significance of like Axiology, Ripple being, built on the XRP ledger and so on. It's understanding like democratization of finance. Now I could talk to on blue in the face about like things like JASMY, like democratization of data, but this is finance we're talking about here. So by making government bonds accessible to everyone, basically, Axiology is challenging, of course, the traditional sectors and its exclusive like nature, for example, like financial markets and so on, financial market ecosystems, if you will. You better believe it could potentially lead to increased financial inclusion moving forward and a more equitable like distribution of wealth. I mean, some of those statements or things that were mentioned years ago, long before blockchain even became a thing, but it's the efficiency and cost reduction in regards to this. I mean, say what you want, those are big wins in this category. How so? Well, it's leveraging the XRPL's AMM capabilities. And, you've seen other content creators, shout out to Willfix, talk a lot about, the AMM and so on. But it's integrating settlement, custody, exchange, and even the brokerage aspect into a single platform. Sometimes when people hear about the talk of a single platform, they think it's, the unified ledger. I covered a lot in regards to Quant and the RLN, the regulated liability network. And some people feel as though that is the unified ledger. But how can we integrate settlement, custody, and also like what he mentioned in the interview, or I should say the presentation about brokerage. Remember how he mentioned that? So it's brokerage into a single platform. How can we streamline these operations moving forward and, of course, reduce costs of market participants? Well, it's through Ripple's XRP, as you saw in his presentation. Now, we understand that there's going to be risks in regards to this. And basically, there's like regulatory frameworks, as he pointed out, even into like the whole crypto-based infrastructure of enhancing trust, security, and mitigating risks associated, of course, with the traditional financial systems. But don't get it twisted, Axiology, or Axiology as you pronounce it, would work as a blueprint, now hear that out, for other financial institutions and regulators accelerating or considering adoption of blockchain tech, but more importantly, Ripple XRP. So if they create this thing, which I shouldn't say if, clearly they are, that becomes the blueprint. Then them recommending the technology to other ones that may have heard of Ripple, but don't quite know all the implications and advancements as far as like, wow, what is really ODL all about? That is a big win moving forward, which brings me to the next part. I want to take you over to this statement posted from Axiology. This was actually from their LinkedIn. And, for me, it really, really pounds home, everything that we're talking about. Because last June, for example, they stated that this whole thing will bring together developers, but more importantly, it's understanding that you see examples about how they bring this to tokenization. And it's basically kind of like what you said earlier, securities under the new European DLT pilot regime. Lots of talk about what's going on in the European Union, but more importantly, it's what we can connect it to, right? So look at this for a second, okay? AIcoin.com talks a little bit about this. How can we extract value from tokenized assets? Well, we've done these studies, but back to Dr. Marius Jurgilas, I'm pronouncing it right. But he, in that presentation, talks about being able to swap fractions for artwork, whether it's like priceless Rembrandts, for stocks provided to Chinese companies. But he's forecasting, some of these things moving forward, right? And of course, here's a little bit from Crypto Erie, even dating back to last year. And I have a new one from her. But in this hypothetical mechanism, users will be able to move value from one asset to another with no need for cash or other regular medium of exchange. I mean, say what you want. This is where people say Ripple is a better version of, for example, Bitcoin, because it's another player. It's the true peer-to-peer cash system. Some people say that. Obviously better than BTC. Yeah, I covered the other one. But the point is, when you hear statements of this, it's understanding the shift from cash to distributed ledger technologies. Why? Again, it literally says it. Chain systems will allow citizens of the world to become market makers and liquidity providers instead of being buyers and sellers. And if anything, put that on a public ledger where there's a whole entire story being told of what's being purchased, whether it's real world assets, government bonds, etc., you can see where we go with this. A little bit more about this. Again, from Crypto Erie, but it's a clip about, for example, dating back to this time last year, and this is really going to age well, about holding some of those things, whether it's, priceless pieces of art such as Rembrandt's, but the XRPL, right? Basically speaking, allowing buyers and sellers to engage in pools to extract value from tokenized assets. That's utility in motion, any way you want to look at it. But you like the idea that you're going to see more examples of why this matters. Now, I'm going to give you a plug of why this guy, Marius Jurgilas, is such a key instrument towards connecting and all. So listen to this. This is 1:50, and then we'll take you to a few more examples. Here we go.
In this future world, we all will have perfectly diversified portfolios of financial and non-financial assets. We'll be able to hold pieces of Rembrandt and have our toes somewhere in an emerging technology business in China. Everything will be possible for us. And everything will be tokenized to the limit where there will be no need to change assets or these pieces of ownership into cash or some medium of exchange. So that when you want to buy or obtain some item, you just exchange it to another item. And this exchange of item to an item, regardless if it's financial or non-financial, will not require a medium of exchange. That's the world of ultimate liquidity. But that's very futuristic, but that's where we should be aiming to. In the meantime, I believe that the concepts of automated market makers, which are proliferating in distributed exchanges, I think they could be taken into mainstream and applied to the places like, usual marketplaces, which right now are being intermediated by intermediaries, which are living in these semi-transparent worlds and extracting value. And maybe we, as citizens of the world, we can not only be just buyers and sellers, but we could be, for example, market makers of those tokenized assets. And if I have excess liquidity of something, I can just put it into the pool and facilitate transactions for the people which I have no idea that they even exist, and yet they engage in those transactions. So that's my vision.
Okay, great quick example. Now, check this out. Some people have stated in the past that Ripple has no connection whatsoever to any regulators, or how about this, former regulators. Now, hear this out. If anything, look at the visual that I'm going to show on your screen. So, again, from the LinkedIn, you will see here, Marius Jurgilas, founder, ex-central banker, ex-regulator, and also educator. Obviously from Lithuania, but he went to the University of Connecticut, and he knows a few things, right? But more importantly, he has the experience. And as we know, birds of feather do flock together, but more importantly, it's understanding that this guy right here has big connections for we can get to the next step of, I don't know, how about regulatory compliance, right? That's something that all of us have been rooting for many years now. Thought I'd throw that out to you guys as well. Moving further into it, listen to this. Just in case you were wondering about some of these other connections that we were talking about, straight from Indeed. Look at this. Gone ahead and gotten to this key part instead of reading the whole thing. The financial landscape is witnessing a transformative shift with the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB, and of course, it raised $300 million in pioneering blockchain-based bond issuance. Again, back to what you heard earlier from this gentleman in regards to bonds. This inaugural event not only marks AIIB as the first Asian entity to leverage Euroclear's distributed ledger for a US dollar-denominated digital bond, but also profiles the advancing role of technology in financial instruments. I mean, come on, everybody. What do we recently see within the last few months in regards to Ripple? Well, it's the announcement of RLUSD. Do you not understand how everything is coming together? A little bit more about this, of the talk of digital bonds. So this digital bond, with a notable 4% coupon, will mature in January 2027, underscores the growing acceptance of distributed ledger technologies among premier financial institutions, and it would reflect a broader trend towards innovation driven by finance. Does it talk more about Axiology? It does. Such developments resonate with the business model at Axiology. Again, back to that whole citation of about it being a blueprint, where adopting blockchain tech basically provides their commitment to redefining the financial process with enhanced transparency and efficiency. So, is Axiology truly Ripple XRP's blueprint moving forward for regulators? I think it is. I really, truly think it is. I don't think this gets talked about enough. Crypto Erie did a good job with it, but, sometimes we just pay attention to other things without looking at, again, the bigger picture. Now, earlier, I did mention the whole thing about Revolut. Check this out. I know this is turning into a deep dive, but like it says, from Marius, go Revolut. He's sure this institution will play a pivotal role in transforming banking, as we know it in the European Union. Brussels, for example, who's part of the European Union, underdelivered and is still daydreaming about EDIS. In the current geopolitical climate, we need to truly single financial market that, or could have one, I should say, as a typo, that can facilitate the needs of small and medium enterprises in the European Union. Listen to this. Cross-border institutions like Revolut do what politicians fail to deliver. Now, some people say, well, it doesn't mention Ripple, but hear me out. He puts in Lithuania, Revolut, and get ish done. As we jump into the next part, if you go to acams.org, there's a little piece about Marius Jurgilas, board member of Bank of Lithuania. Marius brought his experience in both academia and government into the important role of being a member of the board of the Bank of Lithuania, with responsibility for supervision, payment systems, yeah, that's right, payment systems, and of course his research. During his tenure there with Lithuania, Lithuania emerged as a top jurisdiction for fintechs and those companies within the European Union under the leadership of the Bank of Lithuania. All right, a little bit more in regards to this, because I think this is also good to share. And basically, it's this. So, listen to this. This gets really good. It says that new market participants, and again, this is cited from Lietuvos Bankas, the Euro system. It says new market participants will increase competitiveness in the field of financial services. This is beneficial for consumers. Financial service providers entering Lithuania and providing, or I should say, and operating at the international level are proof that the conditions to begin operations in their country are favorable, starting with regulation and ending with the technical infrastructure. Again, starting with regulation, ending with technical infrastructure. People are wondering, stating Ripple XRP, the price doesn't move. It's really simple. We are not at full regulation for this, but once that happens, that's where it will end. You want a starting point in anything. How will this age? look what it also mentions. Payments in euro through the Bank of Lithuania system are executed quickly and reliably, according to Marius. And of course, like it says, member of the board of the Bank of Lithuania. Now, according to him, in the near future, even more international finance service companies will set foot into Lithuania as interest in the opportunities provided by Lithuania is already great and continues to grow. They are delighted to collaborate with the Central Bank of Lithuania. This is an important step for them to improve their service for their existing customers and demonstrates Lithuania's willingness to collaborate with the brightest fintech startups to bring innovation to financial services. Says who? Nikolay Storonsky, CEO of Revolut. So again, the two talk to each other, and they always have been for over a decade. All right, another great example. Look at this. It goes on to mention that a while back, the three largest mobile operators in Lithuania, and this comes from the paypapers.com if you want the citation, the three largest mobile operators in Lithuania got permission from the European Commission to create a common platform for mobile payment services. And it goes on, can you elaborate a bit in regards to this? Look at this. This gets really good. Bank of Lithuania reviewed the state of affairs on the payment market in the country, and they came up with a national action plan on how to make it more competitive. One of the goals was to look for a national champion, a domestic scheme development like Norway or Denmark. Lithuania is the first country in the world where competing mobile operators have joined forces to create a payment system convenient for consumers. Gee, I wonder what one that would be. We had an initial discussion with these three mobile operators, Byte, Tele2, and Tele2, and also appears that they see a benefit to jointly launching a product, a consumer e-wallet. Think about that. That will allow for settlement of payments. All right, a little bit more, because this is, I get it, going a little bit longer. FinTechFutures.com. We want to encourage competition. Again, more from Marius. Member of the board of the Bank of Lithuania tells banking technology as a regulator, we are keen to embrace innovation. Competition is beneficial for consumers. Financial service providers entering Lithuania and operating in the international level are proof that conditions to begin operations in our country are favorable, starting, of course, with regulation and ending with the technical infrastructure. Again, pounding it home. Another citation, this time is from Revolut, from the Crypto Basic. Revolut, largest fintech company in the UK, launched a new crypto trading platform that allows professionals to trade XRP among other digital assets. Again, when we talk about bridges, also understand there is legacy bridges, and also understand there is traditional financial, regulators that are also your bridge to mass adoption. Revolut marked its territory in the cryptocurrency exchange arena by unveiling Revolut X. And I did report that a few months ago. But again, just in case you're new to this, a crypto trading service catering to the professional crypto traders. Firm announced development via press statement. That was back in May. But that press statement about how Revolut has a whole thing on launching a professional grade trading platform and incorporating XRP, that's a big deal in itself. All right. Here's the update 15 hours ago from Crypto Erie. So, shout out to her. A lot of you guys are already following her on X. Listen to this. This is good. Axiology entered an EU DLT pilot program valid for 3 years. They cite receiving XRP ledger from Ripple, where every transaction and interaction on the platform is shielded, ensuring integrity of data and user privacy. Together with Blue EMI, they announced issuing Euro e-money tokens to automatically settle securities in the European capital market. Again, this came true. What Marius talked about in his presentation aged really well here, everybody. E-money tokens used for payments are not backed by a financial institution, but you see that Blue EMI is to tokenize money used for security settlement on Axiology's platform. Again, tokenized money through the new technologies, for example, built on the XRP ledger. So Axiology, XRP ledger, this is a win. And this was posted earlier today. Now, here's the thing. I don't normally do this, but a community member asked, will this mean this e-money token will run on I'll run on the XRP ledger, sidechain, or even the mainnet? This is cool stuff. Crypto says the tokens are issued on a ledger that is foundational to the XRP ledger given to them by Ripple. It's not transparent, so therefore it is not the public ledger, so she can assume it's private ledger based on XRPL technology, but we already have the answer. And that was from Marius when he talked about it from his presentation on Axiology. That aged very, very well as well. So moving forward, the way I look at it is this, and that is this. When we talk about XRP moving forward, man, oh man, tokenized bonds, and this person who is an ex-regulator, recognizing Ripple and saying, you know what, they do have real use case, but having that recommendation moving forward, that's how we can really, truly get to the next big step, accomplishing and jumping over the hurdles, the many hurdles. We've already gone through so much red tape. Now we need to get the regulators on board to getting all this past legislation, not just within Europe, but also here in the United States moving forward. So I thought this was a great example of how can we get to adoption and then taking it from there to mass adoption. If you like this type of content, again, considering subscribing, liking the content, share it with others. If anything, glad to do an XRP video. It's been a while. Thanks again for watching, everybody. If you stay to the end of the outline, just do me a simple favor. Type in AX for Axiology into the comments, and it'll give me feedback if you listen to the entire outline. We'll see you guys on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.